Here's my number. Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is May 10th, 2022, and I'm calling us to order at 7:01 p.m. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Boggs,
Present.
Ms. Marino,
Here.
Ms. Olson,
Present.
Ms. Bouchard,
Present.
Mr. Goldman.
Present.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Motion to approve.
But the thing Roxanne is looking for, you didn't put a resolution in for that,
Okay, we can,
did you?
I thought I did. I will go back.
Computer.
I will go back and look. Can we
Okay.
go forward with the agenda since this stuff is already on the agenda?
Yep, I'll second it.
I have a request that we're already starting a kind of a raised level of intensity. Maybe we could drop it down a notch or two.
I think that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Hmm.
So any further discussion? Then hearing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, privilege of the floor. Is there anyone in the public who's interested in addressing us tonight on any subject? I am not seeing any hands. Well, we will have a second privilege of the floor if there are any further comments later in the meeting. Opening it up to liaison and chair reports. I see our legislators present.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good, hi, Ann.
Let's see. We'll do some COVID stuff, get that out of the way first. I have some tests, some COVID tests that will expire the third week in July 23rd. So I have a couple of good sized boxes of those. If you know anybody that needs any. I was down at the county office for the aging and they had quite a bit and they said they weren't having the influx of people coming, to get them that they thought. So if you know anybody, especially folks who are elderly or having difficulty getting tests, what I found out too is people on Medicare can get free tests at the pharmacy. So maybe that's why some folks aren't needing as many. And of course, some have been provided free with from New York State. Let's see, we have two people who have passed away since I talked to you last from COVID. And we currently have 8 people in the hospital. And as you know, this county and 30 some counties in New York State are at high transmission levels for COVID. So we're urging everybody to wear masks when you're indoors. So thank you for doing that there at the town hall. And let's see what else I have on COVID. I think that's all I have from COVID. Oh, and I'll just say, if anybody is listening in the public or watching the recording later, if you need some tests or N95 masks, KN95 masks, you can feel free to reach out to me. My cell phone is 592-2886, and I'm willing to drop them off too, if that's easier for some folks too. As far as the county, we started our budget process for 2023. Our fiscal target is 1.88% increase in the levy. And ours is about a 6-month process ending in November. So we have a long way to go. There's a lot of, and I know the same thing at all municipalities. There's just so many unknowns this year. So many more things will be revealed about the push and pulls on our budget as time goes by. I talked to Jeffrey Smith, our director at the highway department, about one of the bridge projects that's coming up, and that's the Podunk Road Bridge over to Gannett Creek. And that's between, let's see, I think it's between Cold Springs and South Street on Podunk Road. It's an old steel deck bridge. If you are around that area, you probably know what bridge I'm talking about. And so that's just starting to go through the process for replacement. And that can take up to 2 years, the whole process. And that will also include, excuse me, New York State evaluating it for any historic value. The bridge is 107 years old. So it's time to replace it, and it's having some issues. So anyway, I'll keep you updated when I hear more about that. And feel free to reach out to me or Jeff Smith if you have any questions. Let's see, the airport is really having an aggressive campaign to reach out and try and get some low-cost carriers similar to what Elmira has. And so stay tuned. We're hoping to get some of those so the airport will be more accessible to more people, and hopefully with some low-cost direct flights would be really an added benefit to our airport. Redistricting, as you probably heard statewide, there's some redistricting issues for some state seats. And so the election board, which is part of the county government, is going to have to set up an extra election, a special, not what I say, yeah, I guess a special primary election, probably. I think the first one is in March now, I can't remember, but anyway, they're gonna have to set up another one to when all the other redistricting is finalized from the state. So we're gonna have 2 primaries. We'll also be needing more poll workers or poll workers to work more time. And I might have mentioned this last time, but we did raise the poll workers' salary before, that was last month. So luckily we raised their salary to a living wage. So hopefully that will help people, more people be interested in doing that, or at least giving them more adequate compensation, because that's a really hard job. They often work 16 hours in one day. And redistricting for Tompkins County for the legislature seats, we have a commission, an independent redistricting commission, and they are finalizing their work, at least their recommendations, their first recommendation, which would make, instead of 14 county legislators, there would be 16. And for this district, the biggest change that they are proposing is, so this is District 5, and they would take out the small part of the town of Ithaca that this district has going down to the city limits. And instead, the district would get a little bit bigger, crossing Route 79 more into the town of Enfield. And please go to the county website. You can attend the districting commission meetings, or you can email them to give any input that you have. And I reviewed we have some properties coming up for sale, mostly due to not paying their taxes, or probably all due to not paying their taxes for many years. And I always like to check if there's any in this municipality or any of the municipalities in my district. And there aren't any in the town of Ulysses this year. So if they are, I just like to pass that on so we can help look for, the owners, on the ground level. And that's all I have.
Thanks so much, Anne. I appreciate it. Any questions? Fran?
Oh,
Excellent.
one last thing, sorry. Forgot to put it on my list. The Community Recovery Fund, which I've talked about before, the $6.5 million that we're going to offer to the community. We did hire a consulting company, and the county is meeting with them very shortly to go over some of the basic parameters, which would be just the timeline first. And we have a committee of 5 legislators that are going to work with them in designing the program and rolling out the grant program. And I am not going to be on that, so I'll be able to give you information. But I'm also asking people, if you want to get connected to information, is go to our county website. You can sign up for notices, and that is one of the subject matters you can ask for. You could ask for only that information if you want.
That's great, Ann. Roxanne, did you have a question?
I do, and just, is there any sense from New York State now that we have to have another primary, whether our county has to pay for it or who's gonna pay for that added expense of another primary? Have you guys heard anything?
No, we haven't heard anything. I'm presuming it's going to be the county since we pay for the elections already.
Right, but that just seems.
Right, you would hope, but well, we are going to ask.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Ann. I appreciate it. For the members of the public who are present, the next item on our agenda is an executive session, and also for posterity, since we're on YouTube. We have an executive session to discuss potential litigation, to discuss matters related to the appointment of a specific person, and to discuss matters related to the employment of a specific person. And so we're going to move into exec session. I'd like to request that our attorneys present, please. We will take no action during that time. So I have a motion. Do I have a motion to move into executive session?
So moved.
Second, all those in favor?
Do
Aye.
we have to leave, or is there a
No.
way to?
There. Good evening. The town board is back. We were meeting in executive session. We took no action during our executive session, and we are returning to the regular agenda. We are at number 6A, old business, planner recruitment and zoning enforcement update. So we have our planner position has been well circulated, and because it's a planner and zoning officer position that we have currently circulating. We had as last Monday, and I have not gotten an update from our HR person, and I don't have access to the county system. And I forgot to ask before the meeting. We have a couple applicants already. The closing date on that is May 31st. And so we can, these are individuals who have already passed they meet the criteria set by the civil service position for the job. The public and the town board were provided with a list of the derelict building list. This actually reflects the list that includes the zoning violations that are currently being dealt with in the town. So I wanted the board and the public to be made aware of that.
Is that the handout that's referenced here?
Yes, it's the handout. Yep. It is the handout. So I wondered if anyone had any questions.
No, but I do want to have another part of discussion on that topic.
Okay, then let's go.
Because we had requested at the last meeting to have a discussion from several meetings ago when we decided that we should also potentially advertise for a part-time zoning officer to help get everything going. We have so many things going on now, and see who we got at the same time that we're advertising for a planner, and it got put off a few meetings because we wanted to discuss more of the detail of it and the financial implications. And so I requested at the last meeting that we talk about it some more at this meeting. And so I would like to talk about it some more, because I still, in thinking and reading the emails that are coming through with regard to challenges with process and seeing the workload that Mark has already and the great work that he's doing on these things, and thinking about when we finally get a planner, how long it's going to take for them to get up to speed and get going with everything, and the other potential items on our work plan, which we haven't gotten to yet, but the board had on the work plan for last year, like working on the comp plan. I think it could be really helpful to have a part-time person, if we can find one, that could assist work on some of this zoning stuff, so Mark doesn't have to do that aspect so much. And also it will help as the planner's getting up to speed. It will assist with some of that more minor zoning stuff while the planner is learning our zoning and all, and help assist these boards that are struggling with not having
We
enough support and
definitely-
advice. It just seems
Yeah.
like there's a really big need. And it seems to me that we have the funds to do it without any problem based on the savings that we've had from before and the extra revenue that we got for a lot of reasons in the last fiscal year. And so I'm not really suggesting that we think about doing something that like way into the future, we're burdening the budget with
So
another
what's your
position.
suggestion?
My suggestion is that we advertise for a part-time zoning officer. I mean, maybe on a timeline of a year and a half, like this year, the rest of this year, which is half a year, and then another year. And by then, we will have, potentially everybody on their feet, a lot of things sorted out, our projects moving along, and, we could reevaluate, but it doesn't seem like it would be needed beyond that. So that's my suggestion.
Well, I would have some questions about whether in civil service, we can just hire somebody for 18 months. And I think that's a question that should be investigated, because this is news to me that you only wanted somebody for 18 months. Additionally, John Zepko has agreed, who is our interim code officer, zoning officer. He's going to be attending planning board meetings, and
He is?
yes, I
It
spoke to
wasn't
him
at
last
the
night.
last one.
No, he was actually, he had reached out to me because I had reached out to him and we had a conversation, and he's going to start attending those meetings. So he's willing to make time in his schedule, because he honestly thought that the planning board was going to be okay. And it certainly, for a variety of reasons, has not been okay. And so he's going to attend those meetings in addition to legal counsel to make sure the
Well, I
planning
don't
board
think we
stays on
need legal
track.
counsel and Zipco at the planning board
Well,
meeting.
it depends on how complicated the meeting is.
Yeah. I mean,
I
I've
think
been,
that should be a meeting by meeting call. It was handy to have him there for the last two, I think.
well, if we had had Zepco there, he would have answered all those questions without Nate. I mean, nothing against Nate, but I mean, a good planner knows all those things.
Well, I think you're right, Michael. I think on a meeting by meeting basis on
Yeah.
on very.
If it's very
routine things.
complicated.
Yeah,
you
so if
think-
Nate sees the agenda and says, I think this is a slam dunk or something.
Well, and I
Mhm.
think that, that John Zepko and Nate can also have those conversations too, and see, what's being covered. Sometimes it's not that's complicated.
But the position where we've advertised for is a full-time planner / zoner,
Yes,
zoning
Well,
person.
it's 50-50 in the budget. half
Right,
plan.
but I mean, I don't know that we need a planner more than half-time.
I really don't think we need more than a part-time planner. I think paying for a full-time planner is probably something we don't need.
But I wasn't really suggesting that. I was just suggesting that we would have more support for the zoning stuff while the planner learns the zoning
Yeah,
and gets up to speed. And my understanding is that the part-time, we're allowed to have a part-time zoning officer in a non-competitive position. And so,
And so we're just gonna fire them after 18 months?
no, we don't fire them. We hire somebody saying, this is the need that we have for this period of time. It's like
it's a
a
contract.
term
a
appointment.
term-
Temporary appointment.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's like a temporary appointment. We're looking for somebody for this period of time to do this thing. People do that all the time.
What's the current timeline for what you have advertised?
The planner position closes less than a month from now, and what, 21 days? So, I mean, personally, the planner is, and if you're looking at essentially the hierarchy within that general office, the planner is the top position, and I frankly think it would be discourteous that somebody who's effectively going to be working for them, they don't have the opportunity to help be part of the process of hiring. So, because the planner and the zoning officer, we're obviously advertising for somebody to be a zoning officer. I would be concerned that you're saying you're hiring them as a planning and zoning officer, but they're not really the zoning officer, but you also don't think we need a full-time planner. But we're advertised. I can tell you, we're not going to get a part-time planner.
Right.
There's
This
going to
is-
be no interest in that position. So this is a very difficult hiring
well,
market.
Clearly, we've been at it now.
And we're one of
We
3
have-
towns trying to hire right
We have to
now.
make it easy that we can
Plus
hire.
the county.
So nobody's saying we don't hire the full-time person,
Not at all.
right? She's saying supplementally, if we add a half-time person, we can facilitate the process of everyone getting up to speed.
And starting to address like these things we talked about, which are great. And right now, Mark is helping answer zoning questions, as I understand it, he wouldn't need to do that. He could concentrate on the things that he's got a great skill set for already. And we could put out the advertisement because if we thought it was a good idea, because it takes a long time, and then if we get a planner, that's great. They can help interview the person. And if not, at least we have somebody helping Mark learn answering zoning questions until we get the planner who clearly will be in charge of everything. And as you say, the planner wants to be a planner, not a zoning
But
officer.
I
from
never
Kim-
said that.
you never said
You
what.
just said that we would never get a part-time planner.
No, I'm saying that someone wants, right, so I'm concerned that the board has suggested that we don't need a full-time planner. And I'm concerned that if we hired a zoning officer, that the board is not gonna be supportive of having a full-time planner.
No, wait a
Oh,
minute.
no.
But what you've
not
advertised is
what
a
I-
half-time planner, half-time zoning officer, right?
That's
Well,
not at all
it's,
what I
it's,
suggested.
no, it
There's
does,
a-
in the
there's a
advertisement
planner.
itself, it does not say it's 50% one and
But it's
50%
a
other.
planner.
It's an inclusive position.
So we don't know how that's gonna work until we get the person in place.
You Wait a month, right?
I mean, let's see who we get.
That would be my inclination.
So if we've got Zepco. willing
And
to
he's
do
willing
it,
he's willing to do it, and frankly, he knows the stuff really well at this point. And I would rather see if we could even keep him on a basis while we're bringing on a new planner to serve as a bridge. He's already in place, he doesn't need any training on our zoning.
So how does this also play into our comp plan as far as getting that going?
I would like to get a planner in place so we can proceed forward with that, but I'm here to tell you right now, from a staffing perspective, you know, the board is throwing an awful lot of new projects onto the plate, some of which were in the budget, some of which weren't. You know, some of which, you know, and it's not that there are any bad projects, but every project takes time.
Uh-huh.
And so we need staff dedicated to help doing this. And because it's not all just volunteers, there will be work that is required at the staff level, and I don't have enough staff capacity at this juncture to add more. I'd like 2 months really to get somebody hired, get somebody in place and start proceeding forward. And I think and I have not had I've not had conversations about continuing a contract. But I remain eminently grateful to Mr. Zepko for being willing to help out the town, as he has been on an interim basis. And so, I mean, those would be future conversations of whether that could continue.
Yeah, I think it would be, we can see how this goes, and I personally would like to see maybe in a month and a half or whatever is appropriate to review the budget that we, the budget that we're under now and all the things that we thought we were going to do, right? Because it's easy to put them in the budget and executing them is a whole other thing.
Yeah, I'm
So
finding that
we
to be
need
very
to-
much the case.
Make some adjustments, because again, it's easy to sit here and say, I want.
Oh, yeah. Yep, it's very easy.
Yeah.
Yep. And
So what was the other one that popped into my head was, come back to me a second, something big. Comp plan and what else were we gonna do?
Water?
Water was one of them, but I'll write it down since it comes back to me.
well, it was good and, you know, on kind of a related note, that when we were able to take an opportunity to apply for congressional allocations, that was on short notice, but it was for projects we'd already previously identified that we needed to do. But I mean, the IT thing really came at us. We had some ideas of it. We, you know, allocated some money for it, but the extent of it wasn't really known until 2022. So it's really nice when, you know, we can go after funding to actually in projects that support the things that we've already identified that need to be done. And so for what that's worth, adding more stuff, just, it's not that it's bad. It's just, I'm wanting to make sure that we're managing staff capacity. So I'm hearing, Roxanne, you want to post now? Michael, I'm hearing you want to wait a month and a half. Where,
I think we should see who we get and what their skill set is. Because if it's somebody who doesn't have the wherewithal to go after the zoning and confront, really deal with people on those issues, then we would have to find somebody to do that. Because we've had planners who wouldn't do it at all. So who are we gonna, it depends who we get, what their strengths are, I think.
Well, I mean, I think this is new news that
Oh, I know what it was.
John Zepko is willing to actually,
As long as he's really
clear
gonna come
amount
to
of
all
problems,
the,
I think, that we need to.
if
start
he can
dealing
come to every planning board meeting, I'm okay with it.
He said he's
That would be
making the time
great.
to.
And answer the
Because
question.
it's a complete farce what's going on there
And
right
it's
now.
dangerous. We could get sued. It costs a lot of money when you get sued for those kind of things.
So the other one was the Camp Barton thing.
Oh, yeah.
How much
Right.
time that's gonna take and
That's
what
right.
kind of
There's a
committees
lot.
and things like
Yeah.
that. So that's what I wanted. to
Exactly. Oh, yeah,
Say,
that's,
all right, let's huddle and
So
figure out
the
where
other
we
thing,
are.
I just say to the end of this, because I brought it up, I'm fine to wait if John Zepko is going to do it. I'd like to keep it in the hopper. I think we can afford it, and I would like at another meeting fairly soon to have a targeted discussion about the comprehensive plan and getting that going. I do not think we should wait until we have a planner that's up to speed for 6 months when the board has said that this was a high priority. People are asking us to do it. It's 12 plus years overdue already. But that's all I'll say about it for now. I think we can do it. We did it before. I think we can do it again. I think we can hire a consulting company to help us. And I don't think it has to overburden the staff terribly, but I do want to do it. And I don't want the reason to be that we have a brand new planner that has to do all these other things and get back up to speed. But it's not on the agenda for tonight. There's a lot of other things. So I would like that to be on the agenda for an upcoming meeting as a discussion.
sure, sounds good.
Great, thank
Okay,
you.
sure. Okay,
Anything else on this?
No, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Sounds good. So the next item on the agenda refers to the gatekeeper resolution. This is a moved over resolution. And I apologize. I on the resolution sheet, I swapped them around. It's actually the second resolution down. This is an application to support a planning grant for town-owned culverts. And the town board members were provided with an internal document as an example of what kind of work product would be produced. This is for to be able to go after Department of Environmental Conservation funds. And the way I've come to learn that the DEC works when it relates to the culvert type process is, or actually funding on these types of projects. This is a stream culvert repair and replacement project, is that they basically want to see the plan done, and then you go for their planning round, and then you go for their actual project round. So they don't do, sometimes you have both planning and project execution within the same package. They don't do that. They do it in 2 phases. And so if we want to go after money from them, then this is the first step to doing that, is to go after money for planning. So
do we know what it would take? Because we're looking at. Road jumped out of my head.
Curry,
Thank you. We're looking at that culvert.
that's one of the 3.
Yeah.
I mean, and it might be, we had some really good news because this is culvert related. I will let you know that after Senator Gillibrand's office wanted us to get a letter from the DOT basically stating that if we got funding from them, that our culvert would be put on the priority list. And it finally came through. Actually, we didn't think the letter would ever come. We didn't think the DOT would be willing to issue it. So I sent it to them. I sent it to Gillibrand's office today to be bumped to committee, or the subcommittee that's looking at our project, because that's a really important, necessary step. And obviously we had like 8 days notice when we applied for the allocation. So whether or not it was too late, we don't know. But it could be a situation where by the time we got this allocation, so if we got this planning grant, it might be a situation where we already know whether or not we're going to get funding through Gillibrand's office to address that culvert. So if Curry Road got knocked off by a congressional allocation, we would actually be able to use this money for 3 other culverts. So we wouldn't have to be Curry Road at that point.
Now, do we have quotes or some idea what it's gonna take to do the planning for those?
So
5,000 in the resolution.
Well, no, not for to actually do the initial scoping for the culverts.
So the planning grant is for $30,000, and then we pay 10% on that. And that the work product that I sent you as an example, that's what we would get for our money. And so that's the level of detail it would go into. And so it's our understanding that from that grant or from that package, we would then have everything we need to effectively go for the actual funding from the DEC to fix the culverts.
Uh-huh.
So it's just the interim step. So, and it's a pretty substantial document that's produced as a result of it.
What would you take the $5,000 out of?
That is a great question, and I don't remember off the
Gotta be
top of my
higher.
head where we said we were gonna pull that from. I can find that out. I can get you the line item. I don't remember.
Okay,
I'm
but
sorry.
there's,
The
you feel
BBB
like
wouldn't-
the money's in there. to
Yes.
do that.
In the BBB. Highway outside of the,
Oh,
Part-time.
DVB.
Well, there just must be a line for that. kind of
Yeah, I think we have to put
expenditure.
something in there. for
Yeah,
that.
we have, and we have money for grant applications for planning. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I can give you the exact
Okay,
line item.
okay.
I honestly don't know, and I would be misrepresenting anything if I said.
highway.
Yeah, I think so, outside the town.
Well, I mean, I'm
Outside the village.
basically
Sure,
a
yeah.
proponent of these kind of things, like spending a little bit of money if there are things that are really important to get
Yeah,
good documentation so that you're ready to go forward by people who are experts. You know, many years ago, we did the grant to neighborhood housing, to housing through better housing. I can't remember the name of it now, blocking out, but we actually hired them to help us, and we got a bunch of money that helped with a lot of properties. And it wouldn't have really worked if we hadn't
right.
had that
Yeah,
help.
for
That's
sure.
So it was quite worthwhile, and you know, so it's not a lot of money, and I think it's worth the risk, and then
Yeah.
we'll have it if, you know, we
Right.
want to apply later.
Is it also something we solicit bids for when we go for the,
So for this one,
Not
we would
this one.
actually, not this
The-
one,
the-
we would solicit bids for, we would
for
solicit
doing
bids
the
for the,
culvert?
yes.
Okay.
This does not commit us to paying whoever the engineer is for the culvert work itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is just for the planning grant.
We're a small town and we don't have engineers and
Right.
we don't have that much staff, and they're already doing a lot. And
And
if you want to
yeah.
seize opportunities, some of them come up really on very short notice, so I think it's helpful.
And Michelle looked at this application and she's actually going to participate in helping with it, but she looked at it to, which helps lower the cost. But she looked at it and parts of it are highly technical. It is well beyond our skill set.
All right, I move the resolution.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Caitlin, can I do
Yes.
that for you?
absolutely.
This is for funding for, you can see what the thing is in there, but you can.
Oh, great. Field development. Awesome. Thank you
That
so
was at the
much.
last waterworks I got to.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Let me set that right there. Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, in very happy news, we have an updated 284 agreement related to the expenditure of highway monies. We received an additional $48,094 from what we originally budgeted for fixing our wonderful roads this year. And so we initially approved a 284 agreement at the organizational meeting in January. This is a new one because we have now more money to spend, and for the board, and the board already knows this, but for the public, the way this works is we spend whatever we're given. So that is the amount.
Right.
So, and because it's a reimbursement, we will pay for it and then we're going to get reimbursed $169,628.
So
Is
is this, what resolution is this? Sorry, is this the highway shared services agreement?
The 284.
Is, Caitlin, is this the new one then?
This is the new one.
So this includes the additional 40 something stuff?
Yes.
Okay,
Why is
so
the,
I'm sorry, do I not have the right resolution?
I think it was the one that was swapped in the resolution.
It's right there. It's,
Swap.
yeah,
Yeah.
I switched, they were out of order.
Yeah, but it just
I
says
don't-
highway shared services. It
Where
doesn't
is
say
that seems like a
284.
different agreement.
Right.
No, whereas the
It's
agreement for the
confusing.
expenditure of highway repair and improvement of highway monies is
Oh, that's
authorized by
not
Highway
right.
Law 284.
So why is it called a shared service agreement?
That's what it was in the organizational document. So I brought the same resolution and updated it with the new amount.
But this talks about municipal cooperation.
It's a cooperative agreement for highway services and sharing of, this is what I have, labor, equipment and supplies. Whereas, you know, general municipal law 5G encourages these cooperations. This seems like a shared services agreement. So is that the same thing as what you're talking about?
I don't think so.
Doesn't seem to have.
Because
to
the
do with
resolution
chips.
is that we enter into agreement for shared services and equipment with other
Right.
municipalities. That doesn't sound like the,
That doesn't sound like.
It does
this.
sound like I screwed up, doesn't it? That sounds like a
It
that sounds like
does.
a resounding Caitlin mess up. Well, I apologize.
well,
then-
I'm just
then-
wondering where it was.
So-
You said I missed the other one that I still don't see either, so I was just reluctant to ask, but it just didn't make sense.
Oh, Roxanne, I don't believe you're reluctant to ask anything, but I'll take it. So then I would accept a motion to approve the updated 284 agreement as presented.
Second.
And that's
Read it.
this written one?
That's this
Okay,
one,
that's that.
yes.
I'll second, you need a second? and a
I
discussion?
will, I'm gonna accept a motion on it, so I will make the
So
motion,
moved.
that's fine.
Second.
Yep.
Uh,
Further
if-
discussion.
If we could date this someplace.
Well, it's
Yeah.
executed in duplicate this date, there's,
Right. dates that
I will
was
date it.
done
Oh,
here.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
all right,
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
okay. And again, this is, so we were under 100,000 when we approved it?
yep, and so this is not to spend over 140,000.
Yeah, seems pretty easy.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank
And-
you.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you need signatures tonight?
I do. Michael, do you want to sign your copy and hand it around since you already have it?
Okay.
You did it last time, so you might as well. Okay, moving on to a stretch code update.
Blue pen.
1 second. Right, okay, so yeah, that's some of this from before. So just to review, for the public and from the newsletter posting this past Friday, the town of Ulysses is considering adopting as its local energy conservation code, the New York State Code as modified by the provisions of New York Stretch. The New York Stretch overlay was developed by NYSERDA to enhance energy savings and reduce utility costs for residents and businesses. Municipalities can choose to adopt the New York Stretch provisions, by adopting a local law. A stretch code minimum requirements improve insulation and reduce air leakage. They increase window performance, improve lighting and energy efficiency, and provide for future renewable heating and cooling and electric vehicle readiness. They do not require those kinds of heating and cooling. They just make them ready. In addition to savings on annual energy costs and increased comfort and health, adopting New York Stretch promotes a local clean energy economy and prepares the town for impending changes in New York State codes towards meeting the energy and greenhouse gas reduction goals of the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, which they're working on what those requirements are going to be. So some of the things that I found out since there were some questions the board had and some other things. The June 30th deadline for completing it as a high impact action in the Clean Energy Communities Program. I thought that if you didn't do it by then, you wouldn't get the $5,000 energy grant. And also you wouldn't get the 1,200 points that go towards being eligible for future grants in the Clean Energy Communities Program. But you just don't get the $5,000. You still get the 1,200 points if you adopt it after June 30th. So, and I think that we, with a little bit more effort on the part of the Conservation and Sustainability Committee and me, I had started some things there, but never finished them. We can definitely get to that place, and the help of our Clean Energy Communities Coordinator, so that we could be eligible to apply for a 10 or perhaps even $20,000 grant to do more energy things a bit. into
I
the
want to ask
future.
you a question about the electric charger situation.
Sure.
What that's saying is you're going to prepare your garage or something
Well,
so you can charge an electric vehicle?
I think it's just to have the electrical connections up to a level.
You don't
that-
have
Like
to
you're
put
going
in-
to
Electrical,
run the
Run the
120
the
cable
cable.
out to the.
Or just
garage.
have it in the construction.
But you don't have to put in a charging.
No,
station.
no, you don't have to do any of that. So on the questions that the board has asked me so far, regarding the ability to postpone the enforcement of the code once the local law is passed to adopt it. After the law is adopted, it has to be filed with and approved by the New York State Building Code Council before you begin the enforcement.
And we can wait up to 30 days after adopting the law to file it with the Building Code Council. And then the approval can take between 1 and 3 months, depending on the timing of that filing, because the council only meets quarterly. So you could end up 4 months down the road before you have the enforcement. And depending on how you did your timing, you know, if you filed it just very close to when they had a meeting, but
Right.
after it, then it would be 3 months before the next meeting. So you could think a little bit about the timing, and you could delay the filing by a month too, after you adopted the local law. So
And if
I
somebody
think
already-
that covers the board's concern about having a period of time.
But if
before it
somebody
goes
already
in.
has a building permit, this doesn't apply.
No,
Right.
and so people would have notice, we would be letting the public know in lots of different ways. We could time the passage of the law and the submission of it to the Building Code Council with their meeting schedule, which is posted on the web. And so that will know that we have this delay of 3 months or 4 months. So we can plan that and do that. Okay, then there was a question on manufactured homes. Are they covered under this? They are not. The faculty installed components such as windows and other things are not included. Only items that are built on site are subject to review and inspection, and so the higher code. The other thing was about windows, and I've done some research on the question of windows and the incremental cost, which I can finish putting together. It's very complicated. Well, it's a bit complicated. It's very hard to do a direct comparison. But the bottom line is that right now, the current Energy Star, the current code that we're using, the current energy code requires the same thing as the Energy Star North Central Zone levels, which is below where we are. We are in the North Zone. We are not in the North Central Zone. That's like farthest out, like Kentucky and all that. So the new code, the stretch code, requires compliance up to the Energy Star North Zone, which is the one that we're in. So if we wanted to be compliant with Energy Star in the correct zone, that's what it does. And it, in terms of U values, it's 0.27 versus the current 0.30. NYSERDA has a document that has detailed analysis. It's called the Energy Savings and Cost Effectiveness for Residential and Commercial Buildings. And I can certainly post the link and send that. There's one for residential, there's one for commercial. They did it for the whole state. There's a whole lot of equations and assumptions and things, but they do analyses of incremental costs of different things, and they include windows in there specifically. And I started working through that, but it takes a little bit. I got to ask a few questions to understand exactly all the things I'm talking about, but I can get a reasonable estimate of that incremental cost, the whole incremental cost and that incremental cost. And so those are the answers to all of those questions. And so, I mean, I think it's a good thing to do. I think it's an important thing to do. The Climate Action Council action plan is out for review right now. It's something's going to be adopted by the end of the year. There are bills that are going forward that are looking at requiring, not heat pumps and not using fossil fuels and new construction that are in the assembly right now. So there's a lot that's going to be happening pretty quickly, and I think it's good for the town to get ahead of this with the extra energy savings. And so I would like to continue working on this and, putting together some more information. If we kept putting that notice in the website, in the newsletter, like Carissa did, thank you, Carissa, this past Friday, then people will still keep seeing that we're doing it and make a little spot on the town website, which I didn't have time to give Carissa many materials for, so I just embedded the link in the news item, but we could put these actual documents so people could look at them. And they have an FAQ, but we could also, add to that and make a little bit more targeted of an FAQ based on questions we get from the public or we get from other people as we iterate through and gather things with our outreach. And I have some other ideas for outreach too. But anyway, I would like to see us go forward with this process. and I don't have a particular timeline. I think it's probably unrealistic to try to make June 30th because of the way local laws go, and
Yeah,
public hearings and
yeah.
everything like that. We want to make sure we get the public's input. And think about the timing and how that goes, and then we pass it with getting your maximum delay before you start enforcement. And it gives the code officer more time for the trainings. There are a lot of trainings that are timings of trainings that are available, not a lot of trainings that they can get help with. And the village is also going through this process right now. And Mary, you said, it
Yeah.
didn't sound like they would probably make the June 30th either, so we're kind of on a parallel track. I talked to Ben Carver, who's the one heading that up, spearheading that on their end, and he said, you know, he'd be happy to share the input that he's gotten so far in the process and the questions. He's been very busy. It's the end of the semester, and I haven't had a chance to connect with him yet, so.
Yeah, they were gonna talk about it last night at their meeting, but Ben Carver wasn't there, so they're gonna talk about it the next meeting in 2 weeks. But it looked to them like they were not gonna make the June 30th deadline, but they didn't want to pass something without having all the questions answered in their heads that they had about what the implications were for, you know, additions and mobile homes and, you know, whatever else.
So they're working on the research too. You know, we can get more information from Lou Vogel if we target full questions that way. So I think we can work together and get all. of
But if
the
you're, I have
information.
this question, if you're renovating your house in a particular area of the house, and you have and you have to get a building permit to do the work, is the inside of the house subject to this new restriction?
Just the part that's being,
But
Renovated.
it is,
addition
but it
and
is
the
subject to it.
renovation is.
But not that a new room, you're renovating an existing room.
I don't know the scale
Yeah.
of when it kicks in or not. That is something I can find out from Lou,
Yeah,
but
I mean-
it's a scale thing where it kicks in. But I think if you have to get a building permit and it has to, right now, they'd have to look at the current energy code. If that was required for the building permit, then they would just need to make it up to the stretch energy code, the updated
Right,
energy code
right.
for that. But if you're putting on an addition or something, you do not have to do your whole house. You
Right,
just
right,
have to
just the
do that.
addition, yeah.
So.
Well, would there be some value if the village is going on a parallel track to actually paralleling them? We could even do a public education session potentially jointly.
I
Yeah,
think it makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, no, I've talked about Ben about that a bit, but he's just really busy. So, and Rick Darfler, I talked to also about it because he knew the village was interested and he's interested, and I worked with him a lot on. So I was on the library sustainability
Right.
committee for him with him when we did the heat pump conversion to the library. So I still talk to him and Renee a lot about sustainability stuff. And so we talked about all of that and trying to get something together. And it's just a matter of, you know, I think we need to wait till the semester's over because.
I think a
It's really
joint
busy.
meeting makes sense
Well,
to show us
yeah.
a consistent
Right.
stand for the whole town and
Yeah,
the village.
Yeah, I'm happy to continue working on that as long as the
Yeah.
board is interested
Yeah.
in moving forward with this
Yeah.
process. I don't want to waste a lot of time if at
Right.
the end, everybody's going to say, well, no, I don't want to do it anyway.
No, I think we should keep
Okay.
going.
I will work on that with Ben and
Yeah, I think a
These
public
other-
education session jointly would be
Yeah.
fantastic so that everybody can
Yeah,
be on the same page and think about our timeline so that we're implementing along the same timelines.
right, I mean, they might be a little farther along than us on the timeline, but maybe not, you know, we can see
Yeah.
about that, so. Anyway, those are the answers to the
Okay.
questions I have so
Thank
far, and, you know. We got people, I mean, I think it'd be nice if we tried to move it through and maybe looked at adopting it in September or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
For the
Seems
timing that it
reasonable.
wouldn't kick in until potentially the beginning of
Right,
next year.
yeah,
Yeah, and that was really my only caveat was wanting to make sure that the timing was manageable
Well,
by
I
staff
didn't
and
know
community. Yeah.
about any of that stuff. I
Which is
learned
great.
about this building code thing in the 3 months thing from iterative questions to Lou and Regina. So they've been both really helpful. So anyway,
Excellent.
that's what I know.
Wonderful, thank you. I double checked my email and I do apologize. I did not include your sample, that you did provide your sample resolution on the rural water study. So which is our next item on the agenda. I'm assuming that stretch code is wrapped up. Okay, so let's move on.
So yes, go forward, work on that some more.
Yep, sounds great.
Work with
Thank
the
you.
village.
Yep, and let me know if you need anything, and it would be great to, as soon as we, as soon as we have the potential to organize a public hearing. If we're doing it one of our meetings, I would encourage it maybe the second meeting of the month, because our first meetings of the month tend to be heavy.
Or maybe if we're having it with the village, we just have it at a different time. You know,
Yeah.
a separate meeting on this that we advertise, and maybe we can try to get, like boards to come.
Right.
They already
Yeah.
got the input of their planning board, but the BZA, the CSAC, our committees, any that they have, and any of the public who want to hear about this. And I was thinking I could, because they've offered again, we could get Gina and Lou to give like a short presentation. They didn't give us really a presentation because I asked them to answer questions mostly, and I knew we only had very limited time at that board meeting. So there's lots of ways we could do it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So moving on to the rural water study updates and discussion.
Yeah. So yes, my apologies for being a little frustrated in the beginning. I did not see that.
I thought I included it,
Okay.
and I didn't, as I
Okay.
have apologized.
No,
So,
I am
yeah.
apologizing also. That was just, there was a little tension, but it's fine.
But we have,
So-
you sent it to us, so
I did.
everybody should have seen a copy of
Right.
it. Does anybody want a printed copy of it?
Right.
If anybody wants to print a copy of the resolution, let me know and we'll get that taken care of.
Yeah, I do. I'd like
Okay.
a printed copy.
Do you
yeah.
have it, Carissa? Was it in an email?
Yeah.
It's called Ulysses Participation in New York Rural Water Protection Program Draft Resolution 5620. It has a little comment or two of questions.
If you want to, can you print it and I'll go grab it?
Thank you. And the fact sheet too, I sent that quite a lot of them. but you don't
The
have that.
fact sheet, I don't
The fact
remember
sheet
that.
about the program. Yep.
Was that last week,
Um,
you think?
I thought that I sent it with the resolution, but
Oh, here's the fact sheet.
I sent the fact sheet. I think
The
I
sample
sent,
resolution.
I sent that right after the last meeting,
Yeah,
the last.
April 28th.
April 28th, yep. As a follow-up to raising it at the meeting.
And for what it's worth, it's in my file folder for this meeting. It just didn't make it onto the email, so.
No worries. I'm not being critical. I didn't want to be yelled at unnecessarily. No, anyway, okay, so everybody has the fact sheet, or you know what the program is about.
Mhm.
So if we want to participate in it, we really, need to get them a resolution saying that we do, because they're busy. But he said he would have space to do Ulysses. I followed up with him after the last meeting and said that, we had a short discussion and there was some positive interest, and we would take up a resolution or further discussion and potentially a resolution at this meeting. And he said that that kind of timeline was fine. Steve Winkley is the name of the person we would work with. So I asked in the email if anybody had any further questions.
What is,
I think
what does a
Jenny-
source water mean, actually? Like the lake,
No, well, it means drinking water.
wherever the water comes
It's,
from?
yeah,
Yeah, your
drinking
well
water. They
or-
call it source water for drinking, yeah, so.
So it could be the lake for lake wells.
This program, there's a federally funded, that program is called DWSP2 or something like that. I've looked at it before. It's Drinking Water Source Protection Program. And wondered if towns like us could apply for it because it talks about public water systems. And so I thought maybe it meant that you only, if you had, like the village had municipal water everywhere. But when I was talking to Steve, when I reached out to him after the long conversation he had with Stephanie Redmond, who did this in Enfield and had a great experience. Enfield did it, Dryden did it. They both have
some public water systems, but then also quite a fair number of the residents have drinking water that's wells. And so he said, you know, that means that we can help you, we can use this money because you do have some public distribution water systems. So yeah, we qualify, but we, you know, like what they did in I told them we, you know, Enfield did a survey for the whole town of all their water concerns, issues, drinking water. I said that, you know, that was something that we were probably very interested in doing as a follow-up to the one we did before, and I had heard the board discussions last year on that as a priority thing that people wanted to do, a town-wide water survey. And he said, oh yeah, you know, we can definitely do that. I told him if we did it, we would want to do that as almost the start. Thank you. So, you know, that's what we would do as one thing, sort of a start thing.
I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, I did. So, so that kind of fit, I thought, with what board was interested in, and it also certainly fits with a relook at the comprehensive plan and land use planning and water and
Water studies.
water protection and everything like that. So it seems to me a good opportunity. The things we need to do are in the resolution, basically the following steps. So this came from their draft, so it's what they want you to do. Have an advisory, they call it a planning team, a committee, whatever, they want something like that to work on this. And they want to have a person who's the interface to them for communication from the board. Well, he said, I added that resolution, that whereas we further resolved, because he had told me on the phone that they would like to have someone designated. And then they want to have, you know, a workshop, some public information things. They, the specialist who is Steve Winkley will help identify these resources and threats and then recommend and implement management strategies. Like they'll help you write a plan sort of for you, develop you a plan.
Well, I don't see,
Based on what people think is
there's no
important.
downside to this. What's the
Right.
downside?
And then, you know, they'd want us to eventually approve some sort of source water protection plan or water plan of some sort, which, you know, could certainly be whatever, an appendix, a part of our final comprehensive plan. It could stand alone.
Well, let me
whatever
ask
we
you a
want.
question. Since so many people in Ulysses are on wells, and the problems are different for each kind of area. Some is sulfur, some is, you know, different things. How do you address the well situation in the context of this protection program?
We would find out from the same as we would if we did a survey, what the problems are. And it can't necessarily address all of those problems, but
Right.
we know what they are. If there are threats to drinking water, let's say, you know, shallow wells along very heavily fertilized fields or
Right.
something like that, that would be a potential threat to those drinking waters. You could then have procedures you could put in place to be more
Testing.
protective of drinking water wells
Yeah.
that might be in areas like that. But I mean, it can't,
You might
You
see
know,
patterns
right,
too. of,
yeah, it can't deal with, I
water
mean, you can,
issues.
they can help you think of, you know, individual solutions people might have that you could help recommend or strategize with regard to like sulfur or something, but it doesn't, you know,
Yeah,
other than people knowing it, you can put out a fact sheet saying, you know, it's dangerous to breathe in hydrogen sulfide chronically or something like that. You might want to think of these kind of treatment systems. There's not really, you know, there's not something we can do about all of those
Right.
things, but we know about them. And right, if there are patterns, if there are places where, you know, there's really severe quantity problems or quality problems, you know, you could look at it in the bigger scheme of planning, thinking about water districts,
Right.
thinking about
Yeah.
everything. I mean, we'll get information that will be helpful.
but
For
again,
free.
is there any downside for us?
I didn't see downsides. I had a couple of questions, just, so would be my understanding, there's no staff implication for this. They basically work directly with the committee and they do all the work. Is that?
Pretty
It's
much.
what it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if if we needed a little interface with something eventually, it would be great if the planner wanted to be part of discussions or something with the committee and all, but no, I don't think we need staff to do a lot of
Okay.
things.
Well, you're obviously gonna be the liaison to this, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I wondered is do we have, most communities I don't think are lucky enough to have conservation sustainability committees. This is something that they would be interested in absorbing, or do we really need to form a whole separate committee to manage?
I'll let you
I
speak
don't
to
know. I
that.
wouldn't burden the CSAC with anything else. I mean, I just,
They're kind of getting reset on their feet, like with the new leadership and
Yeah.
all, and there are a lot of things that were on the agenda from before, and
nothing seems to be much moving, so.
we might need things to be able to move along a little bit more.
Also, they want somebody
regularly.
from the local ag community to participate as well. Which
Well,
might be.
I put that on there. I mean, they had that in
Oh,
the,
they have it on here.
right, they have it on there too, and I put it in there, so, right, so I think, I mean, certainly it would be good if, someone from CSAC with an interest in water participated, but I don't think that committee at this time can take that on.
Just wanted to, if there was a simple solution to an
Right.
existing board, I was gonna
No, I
encourage
agree,
that,
but
but thank you for
I
that
don't think
clarity.
so. Mary and I both, I think, are
I
in
mean,
agreement there.
is this something somebody like Rebecca would be good at? Should probably-
She'd be a good potential person on the committee,
Right,
but
that's
she's
what I mean,
extremely busy.
yeah.
But yeah, sure, she'd be great. So, I mean, I think we have, plenty
Yeah,
of people we could find who have some expertise, have some interest, have the time, Linda Little at the last meeting said she was very interested in this and would be
Okay.
happy to serve on the committee. So, I think we can find people.
And there's no cost to the town, is that correct?
Right.
For the service, okay.
Right, because they have this funding that is from the state.
Sounds good.
So shall we move this resolution?
I think we shall. Or Mary, are you?
I'll make a motion that we approve this resolution to participate in the New York Rural Water Association Source Water Protection Program.
I wanted you to read the acronym too.
I know.
Second.
Swoop.
I didn't make an acronym. The New York Rural. Water. So just in terms of discussion though, I mean, is everybody all right with just having it, no formal name right now, advisory planning team committee? We
Yeah.
can Call
Yeah,
it what
that's
we
okay.
want, and sometimes
So-
boards want to specify the total number, but maybe we should just be flexible on that too. I thought I'd ask, that's all.
Well, I think I think it'd be useful if we can do it tonight. I think setting a number is not a bad idea, because I think we were gonna want to do some outreach and make sure we're posting that we have a new
Yeah.
committee on the town newsletter and the
Mhm.
website. And so it'd be great to have like a job description or to the type of people, the backgrounds that were, or experiences that we're most likely to have, or like to have. So I think setting a number, I'll throw out 7 as a number.
Yeah, so let's see if we had if there were, well, at least one town board member, there could be 2, there can't be more than 2, right?
right.
If we had one person from the planning board, one person from the BZA, one person from the CSAC, the standing.
This really
boards.
isn't a BZA issue.
No, but I mean, for example, perhaps Steve Moriali would, he did all of the GIS for the other water survey, making the maps and things like
Yeah,
that.
if you want, yeah.
There are
sure, if he
people
wants
that,
to,
I'm
yeah.
not saying we would have to have somebody from there, but if somebody was interested in that, they're interested in land planning, zoning anyway. They're a standing committee that in the past, the board has gotten input on land use related things. Which this broadly is, as it connects into eventually the comprehensive planning, that would be 4. If you had an agriculture person, that's 5. Yeah, then you could have 2, private citizens.
That would be 7.
What do
or
you
maybe-
take, what do you
maybe
take,
3 citizens if deviated.
what do you take defining the water supply resources to be protected?
Well, they look at the different water, my understanding of it is that they would look at the different water supply sources, like
Which is
wells,
mainly wells.
the Bolton, we get water from Bolton
Yeah.
Point, we get wells, we have these other 2 water districts that get water from Village. Are there issues that with those things, like we have problems with Water District 3,
You
there's
could look
some
at the-
water issues there.
Commercial industrial properties, so like
Right.
junkyards, or
Right.
things that would affect.
Yeah, they could
Right.
potentially look at these couple things
infiltration
that
into
we've
the
talked
Yeah.
about there.
Right,
They might look at, things like that. The Enfield, they had an actual aquifer study done for the town, but the program that supplied that money is not there anymore. Ask Darby about it. But we have mostly unconsolidated aquifers in this
Right.
town anyway. We don't have a big aquifer anywhere that's supplying a lot of water. So there is a very old USGS aquifer study of some sort that I remember looking at way back when I was on board before we could find it, but they'll look at the information that's out there. That's part of what he does.
well, Michael, you're the water guy, what do you think?
So,
I think it's a slam dunk.
Yeah, there's no
I don't
risk,
see any downside. to
I
it.
don't either. All right,
It
so,
looks like it's gonna be a kind of a cursory overview.
all right, so yeah, right. So you moved it to the second
well,
one,
that's
right?
all we would have
Yeah.
done if we
Yeah.
did
All right, let's
a
vote.
survey. It would be
Yeah.
more than a survey would have
Yeah.
been.
Let's
Wait, do we
vote.
have a second on that?
We did.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, thanks.
And we already had discussion, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Excellent. Okay, moving on to new business. It's on the back page of the resolutions. We had a cheerful resignation, not an unhappy resignation. Linnea had to step down, so we thank her for her service. From the Youth Commission, she's a wonderful member. We advertised for an opening on it, and Elizabeth Weatherby had actually reached out previously about the Youth Commission position, but when it was previously open, but we had already filled it. So at that point, and so she reached out again and applied, and I provided her application. She's a very active individual in our youth activities in Ulysses, and so I brought forth
All
her
right, so I move the resolution.
second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, and then that moves us on to the proposed county absorption of duties related to the assigning of addresses. So this relates to, the county is looking at consolidating services related to assigning of addresses for emergency purposes. So they've discovered that this is largely for emergency purposes. They've discovered that there are a lot of streets named Cayuga, for instance, or that have Cayuga in the name in the county, and they're not going to go change all of that, but they want to be currently the towns independently assign addresses when a new address is created, like a new building goes up or subdivision happens. And they would like to bring that all in-house so that when new addresses are being added, that they're managing the process and that there can be streamlined. It was also identified as a way originally that they could take a duty that's currently in the towns that is not necessarily needs to be in the town, and then they could just, streamline the process and make it simpler. Talk to Krista. Krista said thumbs up.
Yeah, this is a job that is done mostly by code enforcement officials in other towns, but in our town, for some reason, it's always been the clerk. Don't know why. And
I could guess, but I won't say.
Well, and also would be standardized,
Right, yeah, very much.
It's,
And updated because it's like easily updated
Yeah.
too, which was
Yeah.
something they talked about that I thought was a very good feature.
So
I'm in support.
it was just a discussion. I'm gonna bring it back to the county. They're collecting feedback informal, and not informally, it's not an informal discussion, but we don't have to pass a resolution or anything. But if someone was like, no, I really like Ulysses being in charge of signing addresses for this
No.
reason.
So you're gonna have further discussions with them?
So they're presenting this as a possibility. And so they're just trying to get initial feedback of whether or not municipalities are amenable to
Yeah,
this.
so
So
my-
far, everybody has been.
Kind of my specific question is, would it deal with things like Ivordale Road where it's on a town line? Because the numbers are different on each side of the road.
So they would do it for, yeah, and there might be, as a result of this, there might be some changes in numbering or things like that. They're not trying to do much of that, but there might be circumstances where things need to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
Well,
And
they've done that before.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
renumbered
I remember
Perry City Road.
I had one, Pine Ridge Road. and she-
Yeah.
And it can be a real hassle for businesses, if you have a legal address that's connected to the IRS and all that good stuff. I mean, it can pose
Yeah.
some challenges. Certainly, so it does, but their intention is not to come through and then reassign everybody's numbers. I don't think they want that workload. So, but it could very well clean up things like that.
Okay, good.
I didn't, is there a cost to municipalities for that eventually, or is the county just doing it all? We just have to agree to interface with them and send them the
That's my
information?
understanding. I can certainly follow up with them, but I don't
Right.
think it's something.
It
we're
seemed
paying
like they
for.
wanted, if municipalities are on board, they wanted somebody who's gonna feed them the information as it came in. So there would still be some
Yeah,
task that would
yeah, I
need
would
to
want
be
to know
done.
how the process was gonna work, because I'm sure I'll get a lot of questions on.
Right, and
Right.
they're not, I don't think they're
They're
that far
definitely
along.
not there yet.
No, they're really, but I think before they go to like, this is how we're going to completely do it, they wanted to even see, they're kicking the tire, see how people are feeling. So I'll pass along that. If there are any questions, I'm happy to pass those along too. So that's a procedural question. I can ask about that, Carissa.
Yeah, I would assume they would need to know what our zoning is for like minimum lot sizes, because that's how you have to do it, right? For your numbers, yeah.
So just so you know, our call tomorrow, he's the one who's heading it up. So we can actually just ask him directly. So
Right.
just ask Scott.
It's a big IT project that they're very excited about there. That was kind of a fairly opaque explanation that went on for quite a while.
It was very long. It was
Okay,
very long.
let's move on.
Okay, so that was that. So reports and announcements, the reports were provided. I double checked that. They're on the website too. We did the town board members have any additional updates they wanted to make in person? Because I know you guys didn't have a chance. If you'd like to provide me with written reports, I'd always include them, but
I had two quick things. One is that the CLEO, the Cuba Lake Watershed Municipal Organization, is pulling together a list of sort of parts of the Climate Action Council's draft plan, implementation action plan, which is currently out under comment review right now, collecting review from the public through June 10th, I think. A review from everybody, and they're having a lot of meetings and everything. Anyway, they pulled together a list of particular targeted actions and items in that draft plan that to advocate supporting, that have to do with water resource protection and land use and things like that. And so I can send that list out to everybody, and they're partly just doing it as they're gonna, talk about it at their meeting and pass something and send it in as part of the comment submission. But they also suggested that if other municipalities wanted to, pass a resolution in support of these items that are there, which help support water resource protection and land use protection and all that, that the municipality can consider it. So since the comment period is open through sometime in early June, it could be done at the second May meeting. If you want me to send it on, you can always look at it and see what you think.
sure.
Sure.
So is there a draft resolution?
It's under, well, yeah, it is. She
Okay.
just sent it this morning, so I didn't even send it because I thought it was just like too much confusion. And we wouldn't take it up tonight, but I'll send it tomorrow morning or something to you so you can look at it. And then the other thing is that I get updates on the Regina Cassidy, who's the Clean Energy Communities Coordinator, is sort of taken on doing the regular updating to all the municipalities who've expressed some interest in continuing to learn about the CCA, the community choice aggregation process that the town and city of Ithaca are working on right now. And so, I just got another update on that. She's just putting out things on where they're at with that. And I can send you that. It's kind of long, so I could read it now, but you might not want to. Anyway, there's a lot of complexity to that whole thing that they're working on. But the idea is that they're working on a plan, they're hiring a consultant, they're working on an implementation plan to do a community choice aggregation with the city and the town. And then, once they have some of that together, some of the parameters of it and all, to do non-fossil fuel energy. And so, as the energy that's provided for electricity. And there's a lot of other aspects to it that are still quite confusing to me from listening to the meetings. But anyway, once they have all that out, then they're gonna provide that information to the municipalities. They're gonna have a lot of outreach information and question answer stuff that they're gonna develop. So the communities can have these discussions on whether or not, and then they're interested in participating. So once they sort of formed it and got the CCA and got an administrator and all that, then that's the time at which they're gonna try to bring in other interested municipalities. So that's a ways down the road, for
Okay.
fall at the earliest, but as that progresses, I'm on the mailing list and for the meetings and all, can keep everybody posted on that.
Great, thank you. Are there any other announcements or updates we'd like to share?
Roxanne and I met on the special event permit.
Oh,
Right,
good.
that's right. Forgot about that
Roxanne's
one.
been busy. And so we're developing an outline of questions we were gonna have and which way to go forward and what to ask about. I have one question with, I don't really see this being passed in time.
For grassroots.
Yeah, for this year, unless we really
Yeah.
hustle. So what is the feeling here? Is this something we should? move
Well,
up
from
with?
everything they said, they're not gonna need more permits than
Sounds
know,
like it's just gonna be grassroots as usual.
usual.
Yeah, the big thing for Mark would be the 5-day thing, but if,
Yeah,
if he gets, more lead time for the special event permit,
Right.
that I could see being the big thing for this year.
Well, I mean, the real hurdle is not gonna be and this, just to reiterate for the public too, this is not just about grassroots. Obviously, any property owner could come out and ask for a permit. But for the grassroots festival, we are a small hurdle along the path. It's the Department of Health at Tompkins County that is setting the timelines of submissions and requirements that have been dating back for months now of dates that they have to comply with. So, I mean, personally, I think that I don't think that it's worth implementing. I think with all things, we have to implement things on a consistent and appropriate schedule. And I think rushing for the sake of rushing isn't good. So if the timeline is just moving ahead, I personally think that there are issues that need to be addressed regardless of whether we implement them in August or November. But there are issues we need to work through, and I would rather have a good.
Okay,
Law.
want to be purposeful but not hasty.
Right, exactly. And keep the public informed. And Nate, does that coincide with what your thoughts would be? And I also want to get the three of you together at some point when you guys would feel ready.
Right.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out
To
questions
interface
to
with
ask
him.
Nate, so we
Right.
didn't,
Yeah.
maybe best use of this time.
And you have Nate's contact information, so you can feel free to just go ahead and
Okay,
reach out to him for a meeting.
Right. I mean, we thought that, we have those comments that were all compiled and we have some questions, so to talk with Nate about. And then we were also thinking that perhaps we would just do a little outreach to some of the people who spoke and, to get an idea like what the agricultural community is concerned about, and how it does or doesn't fit with the current
Mhm.
issues, and to talk with some representative from grassroots and just,
But-
just explain what we're doing, and also maybe just say, we're not gonna pass this, we're being very thoughtful. It's not just about you, but it would be great if you, even though the law says 5 days, if you did it, in advance
I
of
think it's
that.
5 days this week.
Right, and I think that they totally agree with that, but we both thought that just, reaching out to understand
a couple of those concerns as we like work through the wording and the problems would be a good idea. And also just to talk with you about the ones that you have and that you've thought of, or anybody else, just send them to us. And so that was the approach that we were gonna take, and talk with Mark also. We wanted to talk with him about his thoughts on it and his concerns and different ways that maybe we could work tweaking it so that everybody was happy and didn't feel threatened, and it met the goals appropriately. So that was our thinking anyway.
Great.
Yeah, I think outreach is really important. At the village board meeting last night, Roden said that somebody came up to him at the golf course and said, why is the town trying to shut down the fairgrounds? So, so they have this
Yeah.
perception that, I suppose with the exotic
Exotic
animals
animals,
and the special events, it's like
The fairgrounds feels under.
Right,
you know,
under
siege.
attack. Yeah,
Under siege,
yeah.
And
You know,
Which is ironic because the special event permit does
Doesn't
not
apply
relate to
to
them.
them at all.
No
I
noise
know.
ordinance applies to their property.
Right. I
It's
know.
just, it's a free for all
Exactly.
zone in some ways, but,
Exactly.
um,
So, right, so anyway, that's where we're at with that.
well, I think that
Okay.
sounds great.
And
So
it's great to understand what you all wanted for the timeline.
do you want it to come back on a future agenda? Like, can you let me know when you're ready for it to come back on a future agenda?
Sure.
Give me a heads up on that. Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Anything else from the board? That's great. Okay, just a reminder then, we have an all staff training either in person or in Zoom. There will be recordings for those who can't attend either way. I sent out emails about that last week. That's on Thursday. And then we have a regular meeting on May 24th and then June 14th. So that moves us on to the approval of the minutes, and there were 4 sets that were circulated. April 8th, special meeting, that was a short one. April 12th, public hearing, April 12th, regular meeting, and April 26th, regular meeting. We had to push off, we pushed them off in the last meeting, so that's why we have a larger bunch today. Were there any alterations anybody needed to them?
Well, in the public hearing one, just April 12th, right near the end, the last page, very close to the end, it's saying what I said, which is that that the board was compelled to act, and I don't know that I meant to say that they're compelled to act. I mean, we're compelled to consider the comments that we heard, was all I meant. So I didn't mean to quite be that strong about it. And I heard from listening to town board meetings, because I didn't get the complaints from anybody particularly. I wasn't even on the board then. So I heard in listening to public meetings that there were a lot of concerns. And so I felt that the board was compelled to address this, to take on these considerations. That's all. This is a little less strong in that. Thanks.
Sounds good. Any other?
I don't want people to think that we must
No.
act because we heard these concerns.
Well, I'm sure the many people who are reading our minutes in order to stay awake at
Right.
night, no,
Well-
not stay awake.
Thanks.
Okay,
I just didn't want to seem to be
Sure.
advocating like the hard line.
yep. So is there a motion to approve these
So
4 sets of
moved.
minutes? Second,
Second,
all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and then budget modifications, the only budget modification refers to the CHIPS funding. The increase, so we're increasing the budget because we got more money.
The happy modification.
Exactly. So I would, I would accept a motion to approve the budget modification as presented.
so moved.
Second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And
Is that, we have to spend that in the year that it's given?
yes,
Like, you can't roll over, right?
sadly, we can't.
Right.
No, you either spend it or lose it.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yep. So I think that'll be great because costs for some things are certainly going up, so that will
Right.
make, yeah, it's a buffer, exactly. Okay, payment of audited claims was the next item on our agenda. We had 2 reviewers.
3 reviewers, right? Did you?
Oh, I just
review
went through it.
them?
Yeah, I didn't sign it. I was just
So
an official reviewer.
So, okay, sorry, 3, that's awesome. A motion to approve the claims as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
All right.
Aye. And we have moved on to privilege of the floor, and it looks like There is- there is no-
Town board and Nate.
and a greetings to the public still watching on this recording. Seeing nobody online or present, I will pass it to Rich for,
Move to
Wait, I
adjourn
wanted
what?
just to make one very short request for a future meeting, which is that we can get an update on what's the talks that are happening with the state and Camp Barton and.
no, sure, I can give you an
Yeah,
update right
Yeah,
now.
Yeah, go ahead.
or-
Oh, yeah,
well,
that'd be
You don't
great.
have to do it tonight.
Well,
if
it's
you don't
fine,
want,
it'll
but-
take
Well,
2
we got-
minutes.
We're
Few
going so
minutes.
early, though. We've got-
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't mean to make you stay
Make it
longer.
short.
I was gonna ask for a subsequent meeting, but.
No, the update is that Nate actually, and it's great that Nate is here. Nate has spoken to legal counsel at New York State. And they put their crafty legal brains together and found an example of an LDC in Chautauqua County. Nate, am I right? Chautauqua? Yep. And an LDC that has owned and operated recreational property.
LDC is,
Local Development Corporation. So right now, the 3 municipalities, for liability reasons, and for clarity of money, where the money's going, it makes most sense to essentially form a third entity, an independent entity that would be managed by the 3 municipalities. So each municipality, the conversation we're having, would have 2 representatives on it. So it'd be a board of 6. 4 is a controlling vote. It's a majority vote. And that LDC would be set up. It can be set up as a not-for-profit, is what we're figuring out, right, Nate? Am I still correct on that? And so that LDC would either have the ability to go out and solicit its own money or be the recipient of a municipality applying on its behalf for funding. So a town or the village could be a pass-through entity for applying for state funding for Camp Barton, or it won't be called Camp Barton, but whatever it's called, to be determined. And the board is, we're thinking of opening not the board, but the committee that's put together is thinking about opening up for public input and recommendations for actually naming the property. But the idea would be the third-party entity would be the manager of it. It would have the license with New York State, because it's very complicated for New York State to have a contract with 3 municipalities.
Yeah. that's
It's-
one of the-
They actually don't even have a filing mechanism in the comptroller's office for that, digitally. So, which is, so creating single entity was by
Mhm.
far, we got a big thumbs up from New York State, that that's the way to
Because not
go.
only that, if a future board of one of these towns
Go-
decides not to be part of it, then it could screw up the whole agreement. This way, it's
Right.
in a separate corporation.
Yeah,
So the municipalities can also directly put their money into it.
so they would, the way they would do it is not directly fund, they would actually do a loan, which is actually, and that's one of the advantages to this. So the town of Ulysses could loan this LVC $70,000, say, or $10,000 or $5. And we would actually then get paid back. And it would be a very clear payback, as opposed to where's the money going and who's spending it. It would be a very clear line. We have this loan from our taxpayers, and the taxpayers are getting paid back on this schedule.
But we would have to put in, I mean, like, that corporation would have to buy like the liability insurance and stuff
Right,
once
yeah.
the property's.
Right,
And so I guess
Yeah.
the next step is to figure out who chips in what amount of the
well,
3
well, it's
municipalities.
gonna be equal.
You think?
Yeah.
I mean.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
No, that's the agreement. The 3
Yeah.
municipalities are breaking it up 3 ways. You have equal voting
Oh,
rights, equal money in. equal money-
Because they sounded at
Well, if
that
they don't wanna-
February
yeah.
meeting like they didn't really want.
In the end, if they don't want to
Have
do
to put
it,
any money in, so I didn't know if there was negotiation going on. with
No.
that.
but in the end, they could choose not to,
Right, this
not
isn't
to
been
be part of it. It
finalized.
does, you don't need 3. You could do it with 1.
Right.
But if they don't want to, if they don't
So
want
there'll
to,
be a decision point whereby,
right,
once we know how much the liability insurance is gonna cost per year and everything like that, people will make.
well, it's more than that. It's how much is the loan, the whole expenses of the
yeah,
first year.
maintenance and.
How do
Right.
you fund it? We have to.
Oh,
figure
yeah,
that
no,
one
I
out.
know, but like right away, it seems like once we take over, we have to have liability insurance at a reasonable level, right?
Well, the state park might have. I
No,
mean-
I asked
No.
them, and
No.
it's municipalities that have to have the
All right,
liability
so we'll have
insurance.
it. I mean,
Right, Yeah, I mean, and we're also going to, I mean, they're still looking at a timeline of, 15, 16 months from now. of
Right, yeah,
actual
yeah, I know.
Transfer, and so we're gonna have the time to
Yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah,
And there's also, there are potential other avenues of funding that being a third party would be able to get because it's a 501c3.
Right.
So there could be additional operational funds that we could be eligible for
yeah,
that the
Apply to
town of
the
Ulysses
Park
can't.
Foundation or something.
Yeah.
Right,
yeah, that's great.
and even probably, individual contributions.
Right.
Yeah,
We know there are
yeah.
people who want to support this
Yeah.
initiative.
Right.
So instead of writing a check to the town of Ulysses, which is because we can't fundraise for that,
Right.
a third party has different
Right,
capacities.
yeah, no, that's great. That's
So-
very helpful update. Thank you.
No, absolutely. I love talking about Barton anytime I can get it. So now I will say.
Move
ask
to
Rich.
adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.